the third paragraph of Ois Hey. You have different page numbers than I do. So this is a parenthesis. The Rabbi says, and he's adding B'maimer HaMuzkar as a parenthesis to return to the subject matter. What's the parenthesis? The parenthesis is the parenthesis with respect to the subject matter, which is Kriyas Yamsuf, where the sea turns into dry land. One of the questions was, the sea does not turn into dry land, the sea parts, and they walk on the dry land. That'll be answered presently in the Maimer. But he's speaking about the sea and dry land, and he established that the sea, the water, is the source of rain. Evaporation from the oceans and lakes causes the condensation in the sky, or the clouds and so on, and the rain. So the sea is the mashpia, and dry land thirstily drinks the waters, the makabel. And then, having said mashpia makabel, he adds a long paragraph which we just began, and that is in avodah, to explain dry land and sea in avodah. So far we learned as follows. So far we see established that both of them embody Malchus, which means both Malchus has many layers. Malchus is the recipient, Malchus is Neshamas Yisrael. Malchus is the agency by which God actually creates creation. Malchus is God's word, human being is a speaker. All of these dimensions are all interrelated, connected. One devolves from the other. Shechina is another term for Malchus. So the first thing I said, which is the easiest way to understand it, because he's talking in Avodah, is Neshamas Yisrael. Because Neshamas Yisrael are the recipients, with the bride, another term, Malchus is feminine. So we are the bride, the Kala, Hashem is the groom, the Mashpia. Now he's saying that both the ocean and dry land are both dimensions of the recipient of Malchus. Quite simply, 1 second. Quite simply, it's part of the world. It's a result of God's spoken word. It's part of the world. So it's two dimensions, two avodas of the Jew. And this is reflected in the following. We noted that the sea, he expresses in avodah how this applies to us in our avodas Hashem. So both of them being Malchus, being the recipient's desire is to connect to higher. The whole identity of the recipient is that it receives from higher. All things seek to connect to their source. The makabel seeks to connect to the mashpia. That's the nature of all things that are drawn to their source. Now he says that there are two kinds of being drawn to the source. Two kinds of longing. Two kinds of attraction. One is called cyclical, Malchus de Gulim, and one is called Yosher, Malchus de Yosher, which implies Hamshacha from down, not cyclical, but down, direct line, a connection, a direct line, as we explain now in a moment. This means to say, we pointed out just in our observation that the ocean, water by nature, think the point is water, not so much the shape of the sea. They come in all kinds of shapes. But water is cyclical. You drop something in the water, the natural shapes that it causes are concentric circles. I thought of another illustration, but now I don't remember. But we see that the circle, well, someone is saying if you let water spread, it will also form a perfect circle if it's an even surface. That's another observation. I had another one in life where we see that waters I don't recall. Upon his observation are very elementary. Whereas dry land doesn't have this property of being circular, so it's linear. Linear. So what's this in Avodah again? So both the sea and the Yabosha, let's use the terms, Yom and Yabosha are Malchus. And because Malchus, the recipient, the nature of the recipient is to draw towards its source. But there's two ways to be drawn. There's one is a longing to be absorbed within the mashpia. The words of the Zohar, even the one who desires to gaze upon the king but cannot connect, is still praiseworthy, says the Zohar. The longing is there. So this is the rotzoi, this is a longing that is symbolically described by circles because it's not requited. It doesn't come to a final destination. It's the endless longing and desire. This is represented by the water, by the yam. The words of the Maimish call it nimshach klapi maile v'roitzi lotzeis v'likolo. All of it is drawn heavenwards and desires to escape its own limitation and to be absorbed within the source. But it doesn't. It desires that, but it remains tethered by its own nature to its own state. That's one kind of longing. So now we're in the middle of this paragraph. It's on a new page. I know what page is it? Jan gave different page numbers. 307. Okay, 307. You see by the period, by the dot, virtually a third way down. 3 words from the end of the line. And then there's a longing, a different kind of longing. It is not, I seek to be absorbed with you, but rather to receive yashpah here. The longing is to receive the ashpah, the source, but in which way? Not to be incorporated there, but rather but to be drawn down in the world of the recipient, in my world. But Hashem told Chava, your desire is your husband, and you want your husband to enter, as it were, and be one with you. The Kabul Shefa Hazochar, she desires to receive. This is his job, to see that she should desire it. Not he, she. That she desires to receive the ashpah from the male. So that's a different kind of longing, not represented by the circle, by the ocean, igulim, but rather linear, from one place to another. This is the reflective light, which means the Mikabel's expression in a way of Yoshe, Yabasha, dry land, where things are measured, right? Dry land, simply, it's just linear. That's the longing that's expressed by Yabasha. Mamshich Levaya. Now, this is all based on Shar Amun of the Mittel Rebbe. This Maimar in general is a Maimar of the Alter Rebbe that was just discovered, but this parenthesis is from the Mittel Rebbe, so he goes on to explain. Excuse me. So what does it mean? Sha'inyan, the Kriyas Yamsov. So what happens by Kriyas Yamsov? So usually there's a two directions. Yabosh is one direction from above to below in the longing, and the longing of the ocean is from below to above. But now, explains the Mittel Rebbe there, Shein the Kriyas Yamsov, what's Kriyas Yamsov? Shebnei Yisrael holchu by Bosh b'seichayo. So here, they're going on dry land in the ocean. Look at the words, they're very critical. Lahagbir is a rotzid b'chinas yoyshe yabosha. So here, by Yidden walking in the ocean on dry land, it means that what has to dominate, what happens, this is Kriyas Yamsov, which we make reference to, friends, several times every single day of the year. This is Lahagbir is a rotzid b'chinas yoyshe, to see to it that on one hand, there has to be the longing of the igulim, as we said, as we explained, to be incorporated above. But at the end of the day, what has to be goiver? What's goiver?
Overpowered.
To win out, to dominate, is the rotzid b'chinas yoyshe, the longing, the linear longing. Yabosha all over. That has to be the final avodah. Al rotzid b'chinas igulim yom, over the rotzay of transcendence, of ascent, represented, as we explained, by the Yom. The question is, so only have that one? If that's the proper, correct, and more appropriate longing, well, ishech chukosech, so that should be the only longing. Why is there the inyan of the igulim of the Yam?
Shouldn't be the only one, just that it should be consumed by the other one.
Well, I'm asking you, why should it be consumed? Why should it only be? The kavanah is to be mamshech alikus lamata. So why shouldn't the kavanah only be the inyan of the Abosha? The inyan of the Yom is not our avodah. Why is it part of the equation of avodah?
Part of being Mamshech Lamata is still having a rotzei of the Milo.
Why? Yeah, correct. Why? If there isn't the rotzoi, if there isn't the desire for the Milo, then there's not going to be a Amshach Lamata. Poshit, you want to bring here to this world that which is beyond the world. So you've got to be connected to the beyond the world. There's got to be a sense of that. There's got to be a longing for that. That's where truth lies. That you want to bring that truth here. But if you don't touch that truth, what are you bringing here? If it's only shuv without the rotzoi, you're part of the problem. First second may be idealistic, but it doesn't take long before the person's completely absorbed within gashmius and hedonism and so on. That's why you need Shabbos. It's only once a week, but it's critical. Because then, Amshacha, that comes afterwards, is start bringing Shabbos into the world. Yeah, it has to be the Rotzoi. Otherwise, the Shuv is not a true Shuv. It's actually destructive. Right? Remember we spoke about the famous Sikha, the sign of a kosher animal, on the one hand, a hoof. But it's open because you got to engage the world. So if you engage the world, you need to get a hoof for. The kavanah is to engage the world. Why does a kosher animal have to have a hoof? And so you cannot engage the world and change it if you're not connected to something higher. To the truth, to the transcendent truth. Oiswelt und Inwelt. On the Rebbe's words, there is the Toyo, again the tick of the marching orders. Right? Okay, continuing. So that's that's why the Yitzias Mitzrayim, it culminates with Kriyas Yamsuf, that what they went holcho By a bosha, b'soicha yom, there has to be the yom and the gaguyim. But by bosha, to bring all of that, to bring temchit mimim to the world. That means, but you got to be in temchit mimim. I mean, literally, I mean, the Indian. Continuing in the Maimer, Hainu, yeah, Sharotze beyoyse be'eretzi of oy bli moyim. At the end, what is goiver? What is the final address? The longing in where in the place of tziv, this a dry and and thirsty land without water. So first he is longing for the water. Take me away from here. It has to be to bring water here. At the end has to be not that he wishes to escape himself, his matziv. That's not the word escape. Escape sounds like what? Shirking responsibility. I mean that Lord says means he does to transcend, and that's virtuous, but only stage one. Not to transcend himself and to be incorporated above. The end is atshuka, the longing, lamshochas elikus, to draw down godliness, because that's the Eibishter's kavanah. But it's dafka through Torah mitzvahs down here, dafka. The first kind of longing is somewhat self-serving. Of course, that's what he wants. I want to be absorbed in you. I want to know what love is. I want to be absorbed in you. But the tachlis is to bring, the Eibishter wants to do it, but achtoinim, so therefore, that has to be goiver. The rotzoi of Yabosha. So this is what the Mittel Rebbe says. Now the Rebbe ends v'yashloimba shezel gama pirush b'posek tzom malachon nafshi v'tzevo pirushim. Tzom malachon nafshi, my soul first for you. Before we learned Kain ba'kodesh in the previous Maimer, the Maimer before. Kain ba'kodesh zisicha that alavai, when I'm in Kodesh, right? That's a Bashem Tzeischo. I should long for you like I long for you here in the spiritual desert. Here he's teaching it not as halavai. He's talking the avodah meaning as follows. Hainu she'ein akavon rak lam ba'ili shebet minat tzimim. The kavon is not only in the longing and the thirst. Gam im lo yuchol l'ravis etzitzimoyim, where you will not be able to not quench the thirst. That's another word to what's the word in English? Huh? Just escape me. The Kabbalah Sashpot, the Kavon is not that you should have this longing that is unrequited. Kanam Divrei Hazelek, the Zohar said, Sheyesh Ma'ili Be'etzem Hatzimboyin, there's a mile in this longing. The Zohar praises such a Jew. Ella Rotzim Hatzimboyin, but the end is, and I was going to touch the posuk, Ba'ofen Shemevakshim SHIUR, Ba'kodesh Chazisicha Dav. I should see in holiness you where? Here. Not a halavai. This is it's a new touch, a little bit. Ba'kodesh, the longing that I have is to see, not be absorbed with Yulamayla and transcend the body, but to draw it into the guf, into the world. She'iyam shochas v'gilui elikus lemata baretz dafke. Clear? So this was in parenthesis explaining the avodah of Yom and Yabosh. Two kinds of longing. A longing in summary to be absorbed above, that's cyclical, and the longing linear to be mamshech alikus lemata, which is the tachlis hakavona, more difficult. It's more difficult. Should be more difficult. Because by nature he wants to be by the Fabrengen, he wants to daven, he wants to lose himself in the likus. I was reading, there was Yitzhak Lepastik's grandfather. but not the pastor. His name is Zakon. Zakon, big family of Skver Chassidim, and he himself was a big. When he came to Lubavitch, the story is fascinating. You know, he just so they once published him for one of the, as people do, for one of the chasanas, the stories that he told and a bit of his story. It's a great chassid. I remember there's a line there about how the zegedel, the watch. What was it? Right? He would say by Fabrengen, the Gedolei Chassidim. Fabrengen was, but then the watch, it has to end. Whatever, you have to go home, Mincha Mayra, go home to the wife, to the kids. Now you used to die, the zegedel. What are we gonna do? But that's you're lamenting how difficult it was to tear oneself away from the Fabrengen and end it. But that's the kavan. That's the kavan is the came back as he explains it here. I should see you back in holiness. We're here. Now going back, yeah. So now going back to the subject of the Maimer, which is the union of what? Of Yom Yabosha. Now, it's not clear to me. I'll tell you what I think is possibly the pshat. And what's not clear, because he just said now in the parentheses that both Yom and Yabosh are what? Are the Makabel. The Makabel. The yearning of the Makabel to be absorbed or to draw the mashpia within, to draw the source. Use that word source. The source lamat, yeah?
We said the sea is mashpia.
But here now we're saying the sea is mashpia.
Yeah, and saying that also.
Yeah, before. Yeah, we're going back to it. So how does this parenthesis jive? The parenthesis is saying it's two levels of the makabel, two kinds of longing. But it all began with, and he's going to go back to it, that the sea is mashpia, the water that gives life to the world comes from the oceans and the subterranean, the rivers that all flow into the ocean. Kol ha'nachalim helichem balayam. So the sea is mashpia and the earth is in makabel, but in the avodah, it's both the makabel, malchus. Nicht, but I thought maybe the pshat is that there's two kinds of mashpia. Just to reconcile that tension. There's two kinds of teacher, which we've spoken about in the past from Chassidus. There's two kinds of teacher. There's a teacher that teaches in a way of Malamata Lamayla, Bikola, which quite simply means, inspires the kids that they want to be like the teacher. As I'm talking to you, I'm saying it even simpler than I thought this morning. And then there's a teacher that inspires the kids to want to be what they can be. And you need both also. First, the key thing is the kids have to be an older teacher. I want to be like him. And then comes the tachlis that, no, you have to be you, but you're going to take that inspiration and translate it in the way you need to be. It's also two ways of teaching. You know, there's a way of teaching where the kids are going to say your words. In the test, they use your language. But you understand it. They're going to get, do well. But whose language are they using? Your language. And then there's a teacher that teaches in such a way that the kids, the expression may not be so articulate and elegant, but it's their words. That's the tachlis. It's also in life that way. As a child is a child, it's repeating after the teacher. Yeah. And then as the child gets older, to translate this in your own language. So l'chora, that is just to reconcile. Makabel mashpia, clear? Okay. Can agree, disagree? The union is true. Whether it's pshat over here or not. So let's do the paragraph. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So yata nachsel inyandeinu. Now we're going to go back to our subject, the Vaira Inyan, the Hofach Yom Le'ebosha. Having said that the Yom is Mashpia, and Yabosha, dry land, is Mekabel. What happens by Kriyas Yamsuf is that the sea becomes like the dry land. So in some way, the Mashpia becomes not the Mekabel, but like the Mekabel. What's the Inyan? It's a very deep Inyan. Let's just read it. We'll continue Be'ez Hashem. On Monday, Shehayom, Shehu, P'chinas Mashpia. So Yom is Mashpia, right? The water that gives life to the earth. Nepach lis P'chinas Mekabel becomes like a Mekabel, K'mo Yavosha, like the dry land. V'haino, what's in the Kodeya? Shemitzad Goydel Mailes Hagila de Kriyas Yamsov. Because as we're explaining till now in the Maimer, that by Kriyas Yamsov was the Giloy of Atik, Batika Talya Milse. The Zohar, Hashem says to Moishe, what are they praying? Batika Talya Milse. Whatever the hasbara there is. Point is, who remembers? What's Atik? What we say, we're quoting or referencing rather the union of Atik. What are we zeroing in on? What do you want to highlight? What connection, what level, quote unquote, of Alikus are we connecting to?
Undefined.
Not enough. Ein Sof is also undefined. No. Not the Nakud of Atik. Tainug Lamata. Tainug, the parallel is Tainug Lamata. What's Tainug in contrast radically to everything else, all other expressions of the Nefesh, Rotzen and Tzeischo, etc.
What means to an end? It's essential.
It's the I am. The I am. I want is already something else. I understand. You're certainly understanding something else. And if you have an emotion, you're certainly reacting to something else. It's all engagements of the world outside of the self. Atik is endless levels, but Tainuk is endless levels. Then Kudu, what sets it apart is Atzmi. So you want something mitzat Tainuk, it's because that's me, not that will fill some kind of agenda towards a larger picture, but that's me. So Atik represents the I am of the, not represents, it embodies, it expresses the I am of the Eibishter. The I am of the Eibishter. And therefore, since that was the kind of words of the Maimon, now, Shemitzad Goydel Mailes, I see the 6:30 crowd is not, maybe I sent a message too late last night. We'll see it. Okay, we'll see it. No, so we'll continue a little bit, yeah? We'll take the chance to go to the mikveh, but we'll learn a bit. I'll give you a chance to, yeah. What happens here that the mashpia is no longer mashpia? Mitzad the greatness of the Gilui of Kriyas Yamsuf Kanal Sherosa Shif Chalayon, like we said in Meitzah, and so that which the greatest Navi Yecheskel didn't see. What is being revealed in P'chinas Atik, the very essential levels of Alikus. But in the words of the Zohar, Batika, Talya, Mil, so the matter depends all on. This is what's happening here, the Gilui of Atik. Here are the key words now to explain this of the mashpia becoming solidified. It's no longer the fluid water, no longer the mashpia. So this is higher than the mashpia and the makab, the essence. So in the face of this revelation that happened of the essence at Kriyas Yamsuf, the mashpia becomes silent. Ke'even doimim, like a silent stone, literally, that doesn't speak. Shalayuchal lashpia, that can't be mashpia, canal. Like we said before, she'ein ha'chochem medaber, even ha'chochem is a mashpia, cannot speak. If they misha godel mimeno, one who is high. We're just going to say the words. We'll explain it, God willing, Monday. When someone is absorbing, it's an halacha. Of vessels becoming absorbing milk, meat, or non-kosher products. So if it's in a state of absorbing, like Paul did, it can't it cannot give out. And if it's giving out, it can't absorb. So here, the mashpia is usually a mashpia. But now in the face of Atika, he's silent, he's not mashpia. And in that sense, it becomes Hofach Yom Le'yabosh. Okay, to be continued, Be'ez Hashem, on Monday.